So in this video, I just wanted to share what I believe is my biggest advantage in business, and why, I believe that especially other, entrepreneurs in their 20s, early 20s, or just earlier on in life, why they have the same advantage if they choose to have it. And that is A, I've got nothing to lose, and B, I have an extremely manageable lifestyle. So I'll talk about first, I have nothing to lose. Actually say A, nothing to lose, B, manageable lifestyle, and C, easy personal life. So I'm gonna write this out so I can remember it. Lifestyle, personal life, nothing to lose. Okay, that way I can stay on track. So I'll start with lifestyle. My lifestyle is relatively cheap, at least comparatively to what the business makes. So my rent at my apartment costs $3,500 a month. That's easy to pay. I could pay it ahead, 5, 6, 7 months ahead, and it wouldn't affect the business really that much at all. The only major personal expense I have are specific justifiable luxuries, things like watches, or currently I'll be purchasing a new Porsche soon, which Porsches hold their value relatively well. They're easy to resell. And I'm not able to write these things off through the business. A lot of people, they have strategies of doing that, but with the laws that I operate with currently in Indiana, it's just not worth it to try and fuss with it. I'd rather just, bite the bullet and not worry about it for now. But once I'm sitting on a lot more cash, I'll definitely be moving out of, America, getting a second residency, maybe in Dubai or something like that, so that I don't have to pay as much taxes. Okay. But my lifestyle is manageable. It really, I don't spend that much money. And I think, the real wealthy people that I've met, that I've seen, that I've observed, this is just how they manage their money too. They really don't spend that much of it. They're kind of just addicted, and they love the process of watching the bank account grow. And they're not watching the bank account grow so that they can then spend it. They are legitimately just letting the bank account grow until they get to a point where the return, the opportunity cost of letting the cash just sit starts to dwindle compared to creatively investing or buying things or reinvesting back into the business, right? So really your job should be to stack cash as far as you can until you get to a point where, there's obvious loss in letting that cash sit. I've heard people in the internet marketing industry or consulting or agency owners that say they just stack cash and they just let it sit in the bank. And I don't know about that. I think that's actually the really poor long-term decision. If you just whip out a calculator, for example, a compound calculator, if you just start putting away, as a business owner, $10,000 a month in profit, let's say you're doing $50,000 a month in your business, even $20,000 a month, and you can live off of 3 of it. If you start putting away half of that, or if you're at my level, $100,000 to $200,000 a month, $10,000 a month is not much. Over 40 years, compounded at an 8 to 10% annual interest rate. I could pull up the math right now. We could pull up an interest calculator on my screen. So we can head over to investor.gov. Pull up the compound interest calculator. Let's say our initial investment is $5,000. Our monthly contribution is $10,000. We do that for 40 years. Estimated interest rate, you don't even have to be that smart of an investor to get 9% a year. Let's just say 10%. Let's just say you're a little bit smarter. And interest rate range, I don't really worry about that much. Let's say you compound your investment annually, calculate it. We're sitting on $53 million in 40 years. So at 61, I'd at least have 53 million net worth, right? And I just want you to understand the raw power of having nothing to lose, not needing to spend a lot of money on lifestyle, and managing your expenses very well. And honestly, I'm the first to have an issue with this. And a lot of my money when I was doing well, I'd say for the first $500,000 that I made in profit for my business, I was not good at managing it. I spent a lot of it. It went back into the business in ways that weren't really justifiable. I spent on advertising campaigns that I didn't know how to turn back into profit because I didn't know how to use the audience. I wasn't a good marketer yet. I had bought, all kinds of useless tools and softwares and hired team members, and just everything started to stack to a point where, I ended up spending a good chunk of that first $500,000. With the second half, I've been a lot smarter and things have stacked, and now we're sitting on more cash in the bank than, I can really even, that I will need even for, 6 years of living expenses. And so I want you guys to understand, there's a massive, massive advantage that is extremely understated as a business owner, and not needing to fuel the next car payment, not needing to fuel the next, freaking vacation expenditure, not needing to fuel the next, dining out. I just want you to know, as an entrepreneur, your worth comes from, how much you have in the bank minus what your monthly expenses are minus your personal expenses. And that's really how you should measure things, on a month-to-month level. And I think a lot of people, they're genuinely just interested in stacking cash that they can then do the next thing. This is all on my mind because as of right now, I'm actually planning to buy a new Porsche. I may or may not. I'm really 50-50 on it, but I was talking to some buddies about it, and I just started saying, like, look, I would not justify buying this Porsche if I couldn't, in profit, make what it costs to get the Porsche that week, maybe within a week and a half. And I think you need to think about that with your own expenditures. You need to know how long it will take you to make back that money and consider yourself in the red until you make it back. And really consider taxes as well, because if you're taking money out of the business, you're spending on personal stuff, depending on where you live in the States right now, especially with current administration, you're going to be spending a lot on taxes. And so you got to consider that as an expense as well. Of course, you can pay taxes quarterly. You don't have to pay it all up front. But I digress, right? It's still money that you won't have at the end of the year. Unless, you play another tax game, which is, my goal in the long term, but not necessarily right now, because I don't really see it as, a necessary element in continuing to grow my business as of right now, because we don't have enough expenses to justify saving the extra 30 to 40%. However, the justification for me will come at about 23, 24, 25 years old, where I believe at that point I'll be sitting easily on over $1 million, maybe $2 million in cash. And at that point, 40% of that's a good chunk. And that's going to slow me down from my personal financial goals in an extreme way. At which point I'm going to much easier be able to justify, going to an extreme like a secondary residency, or, even, full-time renouncing my citizenship in the States and moving to a country that's maybe more business friendly. So nothing to lose is a big one. Managing your lifestyle is a big one. I don't know that many entrepreneurs that will talk about it. I definitely think a lot of people are subtly attracted to the flash of sort of lifestyle that I live, but I gotta be honest, dude, I make in a month what I could, then go out and buy an Aston Martin in cash, and I'm not spending it that way. I am stacking the cash. I'm being careful. I'm letting my net worth grow over time considerably in either liquid cash or easily liquidatable assets. One of my buddies turned me on to using watches as an investment vehicle, so I've been getting into watches. I've done very well. I've gotten like a 20% return on my portfolio there, and it's just money sitting. I've gotten into different stocks and ETFs, and I've got some money in the NASDAQ, just various places. But for the most part, the money's in the business, and that's where I want it to stay. The only other, investment vehicle that I have right now is I am putting a good chunk of monthly profits away into a life insurance policy where I'm investing into different index funds and different long-term growth, 8 to 10% yearly compounded annually sort of investment vehicles through a life insurance policy that will then, allow me to have, a good amount of net worth at 50, 60, 70 years old, where I can then pull out, reasonably, and I just don't have to think about it between now and then, okay? So I want you to understand the real advantage of business does not come from the front. It doesn't come from how good you are at marketing. It doesn't come from how good you are at sales. It doesn't come from all these things. This is one half of the pie. The other half of the pie is managing that pile. It's managing what comes in. I think a lot of marketers are really, really, really good at filling the bucket, but they don't really take the time to plug the holes that are causing their bucket to have huge leaks. And so they'll find that they'll fill their bucket and then it'll dry up if they're not working for 3 or 4 months. I could legitimately take the next year off and it wouldn't affect my life or my business at all. It might affect my authority. I might fall behind market trends and need to catch back up. But besides that, I could be right back in business and be totally fine. So I'm literally choosing to run my business because I just genuinely enjoy it and I want to do it. And I think having that abundance mentality gives me another significant advantage. So first, its lifestyle expenses are low. I could legitimately live off of maybe $6,000 or $7,000 a month, which is a decent, just barely sub 6-figure income, and I could live off of that just fine. Rent's $3,500. I like to eat out occasionally, and then just various other little expenses. That's not including the major ones, obviously, like watches or cars, which I can justify those expenses in my own head as a business expense, even though it's personal income on paper. I think it does well for the brand. I think it gives me some authority, and to be honest, it does help grow the business, even though if it were purely up to me, I'm not even sure I would care much about luxuries. So there's that. Nothing to lose, managing my lifestyle, and then personal life. This is another one people don't talk about. We actually had a 3-day boot camp mastermind in high-level systems where we went through a lot of the key categories in your life or in your mental state that allow you to grow or that might hold you back from growth. And one of the areas that I helped my community identify that they were stuck, it's not business, it's not sales, it's not marketing, it's not appointment setting, it's not offer creation, it's none of these things. It was, legitimately the people stuck at zero, 90% of them had a rough personal life that was holding them back. It wasn't strategy, it was a rough personal life. It was either bad habits, bad routines, or it was bad people in their life. It was, drama, that was taking energy from them. It's being in a bad home environment or around a bad group of friends or having past trauma that's holding them back. So really another advantage you can have as a business owner, and this is something I want to give to my kids, is a healthy family life, with a solid, parental structure and clean, simple rules to follow growing up, with a lot of love and a lot of, guidance and a lot of nurturing. People that don't come from that environment, you've got some healing to do. And I personally had some healing to do as well with some of the ways that I was growing up. I don't think any family's perfect, but doing that internal healing has given me the ability to then work on my business from a more holistic view, which allows me to think longer term, bigger picture. And, I don't think people really talk about these sorts of things. They don't talk about going to therapy. They don't talk about doing the internal work. They don't talk about overcoming limiting beliefs and trauma and things in your past that are, holding you back. And people just kind of live with this constant state of anxiety that they're not even really sure why. And then they can't sleep, and then they sacrifice good habits, and they eat poorly, and then they surround themselves with people just for the validation of it, which leads to very shallow relationships and a lack of love. And it's just like a whole cycle that's going to keep you from being able to think clearly and be an effective human being. So really, self-love, taking care of yourself, really means setting up a clean personal life, having nothing to lose, and then managing your lifestyle. Self-love in a business context really is managing these things, because if you're not managing these things, they're going to spiral out of control. And I don't care if you make $200,000 a month in profit in your business. I've got buddies that do that, while they sleep. They could literally not work, and that's going to come in, and I've seen it firsthand. They will still hit a brick wall when they're not managing these areas. Lifestyle, nothing to lose. Personal life, doesn't matter how much money you're bringing in. I promise you, one day you'll experience it. You're having 6-figure plus months, doing $1 million a year or more in your business, and all of a sudden your life is literally the exact same, and nothing's changed, and you still have to solve the same core areas that you had to solve when you were getting started. You thought money would solve it, it didn't. And that's a wake-up call that I had earlier this year as we were growing massively, and I realized, all right, I really have to work on myself, work on my lifestyle, work on some things in my life, and solidify who I am before I can really give my work everything that I want to give it. So I just want to encourage you today, a lot of the advantages in business don't come from what you do or the strategy or the tactic. It often comes from who you are. And who you are is your self-image, it's the people you surround yourself with, it's your habits, it's your rituals, it's your baseline standard of behavior. And that often is the key differentiator between $1 million a month guy and a $10,000 a month guy, because honestly, the $1 million a month guy, from my experience, what I've seen is they've done that internal work. They've grown, they've let go of unnecessary belief systems, and they've gotten past, some of the ideas they had of themselves when they maybe were getting started. So anyways, just a quick video, really inspired today to share this because, I'm on the cusp of just an incredible season of growth in my life. I'm about to do a launch with a buddy where we're probably going to make anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000 the first week in profit. And it's just, I'm reaching these new levels in business, and I'm really enjoying the process. And I just want to tell you, what has helped me more than anything is doing this internal work. And I don't think any other coaches are going to tell you this. I don't think any other business guys are going to tell you this, but genuinely, tactics are a dime a dozen, strategies are a dime a dozen. You can literally make any tactic or strategy work. Just know your numbers and commit to the process of making it work. You are often the bottleneck. There's no such thing as business problems. There's just such thing as personal problems that then show up or reflect in your business or in your work. So I would encourage you to do the work on yourself, build an environment of abundance, of happiness, of gratefulness in your life that allows you to stay creative and excited about your work, because that has been, if I could look back at like my journal entries from a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, that's the biggest difference. Is back then I was running from something, now I'm running towards something. And I think a lot of business owners, they struggle with running from a sense of lack of belief in themselves or a feeling of not being worthy of love or something, and they're in business to solve these things. Whereas the people that I know that are succeeding over the long term, not just level of scale on a monthly basis. Keep in mind, I don't care if you do $1 million a month, if you do it for 2 years. I'd rather do $200,000 a month profit for 40 years, right? That's really what I'm after is, high scale and, long term, versus just blasting things off and then screwing everything up at the top and then going right back down to, rock bottom. And I think the differentiator there, again, is the person. It's who you are. You know, it's just the major issues that hold people back. It's like, you know, all of a sudden the business owner is having an affair with their assistant. It's, you know, the internal culture of the company is crap because the leader has a crap internal culture in his own head. You know, he's an envious and selfish kind of a guy, and he ends up attracting people like that in his own company. There's internal, you know, competition. There's no fluidity of the culture because everybody's out to get each other, because that guy who started the company kind of has that mentality too. And it's just all this stuff. The tactics are easy, business is easy, what is hard is you. So anyway, that's my unfair advantage in business, I believe, is that I'm comfortable enough with myself to admit where I need to grow, and in that process I give myself infinite upside in life and in business. So thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all in the next one.